Louis Vuitton is one of the world's most luxurious fashion brands. Their New York City flagship store consists of multiple floors showcasing their goods, but it's their restaurant that captured my attention. Le Café Louis Vuitton translates the brand's world of fashion and luxury to food. Many of their offerings are stamped with iconic Louis Vuitton logos, from the butter, ravioli, and even their mashed potatoes, but it comes with a price, and I had to find out if it was worth it. It's a crisp, cool day today here in New York City. Right now I'm in Central Park, but the real excitement comes later when I'll be going for dinner at a designer restaurant. I'll be going to Le Café Louis Vuitton. With the changing face of retail these days, designer restaurants are becoming quite the thing, and in New York City at least, there is no place more popular than Louis Vuitton's restaurant. In fact, getting a reservation from the restaurant can be quite a challenge. I got mine almost a full month ago, and it is at the most awkward time. 4:30, which is pretty late for lunch and quite early for dinner. Nevertheless, I'm just excited to be able to eat at the restaurant. Plus, the food does look really good. It doesn't seem like the restaurant's just slapping on the Louis Vuitton logo nonchalantly. It actually seems like they're creating some really good culinary offerings. And speaking about the Louis Vuitton logo, they monogrammed the hell out of their food, which is kind of nice because for most people, the food at the restaurant, even though it's very expensive, is pretty much the most affordable thing in that store. As a result, the Louis Vuitton restaurant is one of the most affordable ways that one can experience the luxury and glamour that is often associated with the brand. So with that being said, let's head on over to Louis Vuitton. The flagship New York City Louis Vuitton store is located in Midtown Manhattan along the city's most famous retail street, Fifth Avenue, next to some of the most recognizable brands. However, their flagship is currently undergoing renovations, and a temporary Louis Vuitton was created right across the street. Instead of your typical construction scaffolding, the brand transformed the site into a stack of 6 gray, highly detailed Louis Vuitton trunks. The fact that the company would put that much effort into mere scaffolding just showcases that they take things to another level. In fact, I was at the temporary Louis Vuitton flagship just weeks earlier as the store had a small exhibit featuring 2 masterpieces by the French artist Gustave Caillebotte, and it was completely free. Yeah, admiring stunning works of art does improve my shopping experience. As a brand, the company was founded in Paris back in 1854. It started by making trunks and luggage. That sort of travel heritage is one of the reasons why I like the brand, as their history recalls the romanticized era of luxury ocean liners and grand train journeys like the Orient Express, which for me is one of my bucket list travel experiences. In fact, the Orient Express is operated by Belmont, which is a subsidiary of LVMH, the multinational holding company that operates Louis Vuitton. Since its humble beginnings, Louis Vuitton has expanded well beyond from just making trunks. The brand has hundreds of stores across the world and is even in the process of constructing the first Louis Vuitton branded hotel in Paris. On that night, however, I was focused on their New York restaurant. I arrived a bit before my reservation and casually made my way up to the cafe, which was located on the 4th floor. Right outside the restaurant is a small Maxime Frederick chocolate shop. In fact, Frederick was recently crowned as the world's best pastry chef for 2025. The creations on display looked beautiful, but I knew they came with some hefty price tags, so I turned my attention to the Louis Vuitton cafe and was soon seated. Taking in the restaurant, it was clear that I was in a Louis Vuitton branded establishment, as it became impossible to look anywhere without seeing something from the brand, but I liked the space. It was comfortable and had a good energy. As a book lover, I particularly appreciated the books they had on display. In fact, the only Louis Vuitton item that I own is one of their city guides I got over a decade ago. Once I was settled, I began to look through the menu. Le Café Louis Vuitton features a menu filled with classic dishes and flavors that incorporate some global influences. Now, the restaurant offers a 3-course, $125 prix menu that sounded like a decent option, but I preferred the freedom of ordering a la carte. In terms of beverages, there's wine of course, but it seems as though most stick with getting cocktails, as many of the creations are stamped with the Louis Vuitton logo. However, I made a huge mistake. I ordered the wrong cocktail. I chose the Cocopolitan, but what I should have got was the Capucine Twist, which is branded with the Louis Vuitton logo. How the hell am I going to show off to everyone that I was at the Louis Vuitton cafe with my logo-free drink? I'm just kidding. I could care less about branding, and I'm not a fan of people who brag and show off. Having said that, I still made a mistake, as that drink seems to have been based off of a Cosmopolitan, which isn't my favorite. Thankfully, that ended up being a happy accident, as I ended up really enjoying that cocktail. The beverage consisted of Belvedere vodka, citrus essence tincture, Kalani coconut, clarified cranberry, and lime. It was the coconut flavor that really made the drink a success. It tied everything together and was well balanced. First up, in terms of food, was the bread, which even came with monogrammed Louis Vuitton butter. The bread by itself was alright, but nothing special. The butter, on the other hand, now that was special. It was incredibly smooth, rich, and filled with flavor. I didn't have much of a wait until I was presented with my first official course, the truffle eggs a la coque. On the menu, the dish is considered a snack and consists of 2 ceramic eggs filled with an œuf mousseline and is paired with a monogrammed brioche soldier. Basically, I was supposed to take this strip of brioche and dip it into the rich egg mixture. The result was a simple but luxuriously rich and tasty dish that I loved. That mousseline was excellent. It was like a truffly hollandaise. The brioche soldier was on the mark as well. It was perfectly baked and nice and warm. After finishing the brioche, I utilized my spoon to get every last molecule of that tasty mousseline out of those eggs. So far, even with my cocktail mishap, my dinner was shaping up to be a success. Next, I was presented with my appetizer, which is a signature dish of the restaurant, the monogram flour ravioli. It was a nice looking plate of food, and the ravioli was indeed monogrammed. Maitake mushrooms and a black truffle emulsion were also part of the creation, which I couldn't wait to try. Simply put, that ravioli was amazing. The pasta was perfectly cooked, but it was the black truffle emulsion that turned that creation into a flavor explosion. It was just so rich and savory. Plus, the maitake mushrooms provided a blast of umami. Overall, that was another great dish, but I shouldn't have been too surprised. Louis Vuitton always seems to do things at a very high level. In fact, their Saint-Tropez restaurant even has a Michelin star. After finishing, it was on to the main course, the chicken, which even included some tableside preparation. In addition, I got a side of the Palm Mousseline Louis Vuitton, which also included some tableside theatrics. Yeah, I never had what was basically a mashed potato dish presented quite like that. It was interesting. First though, I turned to my chicken dish, which included Japanese curry, an heirloom carrot, and jus gras. It was a nice looking plate, although the portion size was a bit small, but that's par for the course with many of these fine dining restaurants. Nevertheless, I was eager to try it. Now that was a fine chicken dish. The meat was flavorful and moist. Plus the savory and slightly crispy skin was delightful. For me, it was the Japanese curry that really elevated that plate. Paired with the chicken, the curry lent the meat a vibrant and slightly sweet flavor that I loved. Also on the plate was what looked to be a sort of chicken roulade, which was very tasty. Overall, that was a satisfying course. While I was enjoying my main, I was also going back and forth with my side of the Palm Mousseline Louis Vuitton, which is what the restaurant describes as their signature truffle mashed potatoes. Now the dish certainly looked a bit strange, but flavor-wise, it delivered. The texture was interesting. Overall, the creation was much looser than your typical mashed potatoes. At the same time, however, the side was punctuated with various elements like chunks of potatoes and even some crispy bits. That textural variety was an aspect that I really appreciated. Flavor-wise, it was savory and very rich. To put it simply, I thought that was a somewhat strange creation, but it worked. I really enjoyed it, and it paired very nicely with my chicken. After finishing, it was time for dessert. Louis Vuitton has a fairly decent dessert menu with some nice sounding options, including a marble gâteau for $45, but that one is takeaway only and it does serve 4. I ended up choosing the hazelnut entremet, which was a beautiful monogram creation with a hazelnut ganache, tender praline, and fleur de sel. The dish was picture perfect, but as I was about to find out, it also delivered on flavor. The hazelnut ganache was very pleasant, but it was really about how well all of those flavors interacted with each other. Everything was well balanced, and that entremet was a true textural delight. All of the creation's various layers combined equated to be one hell of a satisfying bite. Overall, I had a great time at the Louis Vuitton Cafe. All of the food was very good as well as interesting. It does seem, however, that the restaurant was made with social media in mind, as nearly all of my courses came adorned with Louis Vuitton logos. But that seems to be what people want, to be able to share a little bit of that Louis Vuitton glamour with their friends on Instagram. For me though, I'm more impressed by restaurants that put more effort into their food rather than branding, but Louis Vuitton still provided great food and I was taken in by the branding. Like everyone else, I'll definitely be posting about my experience on Instagram. After finishing my dessert, it was time for the bill, which totaled to $202.51, but with my tip, I spent almost $240. Yeah, that was expensive, and I feel like it's a bit higher than even similar New York City fine dining restaurants. If there was such a thing as a Louis Vuitton monogram tax, I was definitely paying for it, but I still had a great dinner. So that was a good meal. I really enjoyed that. Le Café Louis Vuitton is a solid spot. Although I do feel like it was a bit overpriced. If I was at a different restaurant and my food wasn't monogrammed to hell, it would probably be $50 to $60 cheaper. However, at the end of the day, I think Louis Vuitton is giving their customers what they want, and that is a culinary experience immersed within the Louis Vuitton world. Now, despite the price, I absolutely love that food, like that egg dish that I had at the start of my meal. That was ridiculously good. Plus that ravioli, that was heavenly. Even my mashed potato side dish, which I thought had a very strange presentation, was oddly delicious. Really, my only issue with the restaurant was the price, because overall, I had a great experience. The food was excellent, the service was excellent, and the atmosphere was through and through pure Louis Vuitton. To sum it up, I think Louis Vuitton did a great job with their restaurant. They clearly didn't take any shortcuts with regards to the food and the restaurant in general. In conclusion, if you are a fan of the brand, you will get a solid Louis Vuitton culinary experience. Now, if you're not into any of that designer branding, you'll still get a great meal, but maybe a meal that is not the best bang for your buck. For me, I definitely had a fine time at Louis Vuitton's restaurant, and I wouldn't mind going back one day. But for now, I'm on 5th Avenue, the holidays are in full swing, and I think I'm going to take a little bit of a holiday walk and see the lights and sights.